county go back into the. So we will have to sort of see how that goes, what's happening with it. It may be something that we don't need to consider as much anymore, but so beyond that, we will be trying to have, this has been a new attempt, thanks to Melanie and others, to have interpreters for our meetings. And we probably have an outfit that's going to provide that for us. And we think by the next meeting that it'll be in place. And if anybody, that's going to be Spanish for now, but we will have to probably get other assistance as the need arises. We've been contacted by a parent who has need for Spanish interpretation. So just everyone let us know what is necessary, what you could use assistance with, and we'll try to make that happen. There is cost involved with it, but I'm sure we'd all agree that that's a very worthy use of the funds that we do have. Our only annual fundraiser, which is our Bluegrass Autism Walk, is going to happen, we think, we hope, and that is going to be October, just make sure I say the right thing, Sunday. Well, okay, I'm not finding it very readily. Somebody else can say it. I think it's the 9th. Sunday,
October 9th.
Sunday, October 9th. So just keep that in mind. And the website will be up and running soon, and you can use that to form teams. That's a really, really convenient way to do the fundraising for us. Rather than having to go one-on-one in person with people and request money, you can form a team, name it. Often they're named after our kids, and you can bring people on through there, and then they can donate extra money, or you can ask for donations beyond that with your team. It's an online platform, so that's really simple. And we haven't been able to do it for a couple of years. So this is going to be a first in a long while. And if we are able to do it in person, which I really think that we will, we consider it more than a fundraiser opportunity for our kids to be able to, our families to be able to get together without being looked down on by the regular community members, or having any issues with the people, our family members being able to participate fully when sometimes they can't go out in public very often. So, and we're going to try to up our sensory friendly area this year, but it's going to be at the Legends Ballpark again. So there's that information. Melanie, you had told me what the July meeting will be. Do you recall off the top of your head?
Oh yeah, sure. I had talked with the gal that is the First Steps connection, so that we're still kind of focusing on young children, and I apologize for that. We'll move towards the adults very soon, but she is going to just come in, and I think she's going to have other people with her, but she's going to talk about the First Steps program and how to get involved with it and what it's about and all that good stuff.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do try to change up programming. And by the way, we, and especially Melanie, would love to hear from everyone what is needed in terms of programming. If you have a thought about what you'd like to hear about, if there's maybe tonight we're going to hear about applied behavior analysis therapy. If there's another type of therapy, speech therapy, occupational that you're interested in, if there's medical issues that you're interested in associated with autism, let us know, because our whole point is to put out information that's useful to people. So you'll only be helping us by letting us know about that. if there are no more announcements for the near future, we can go ahead and hear from our speakers. And they are from the Marshall Pediatrics program, the ABA portion of that program. A lot of us parents had ABA therapy for our children when they were younger, and some probably are still doing it now. So I understand that this therapy, the Marshall Pediatrics brand of therapies got a little twist about it. So I'll be interested in hearing about that. And I'm so glad that Andrea Wiles and Keely Jackson, you were able to join us tonight. And I'll let you do better introductions of yourselves than I would be able to. But thank you so much for being here.
So my name's Andrea Wiles. I am a board certified behavior analyst. I'm also a mom of a person with autism. My son is 25. He is a software engineer now. Yeah. So, and doing very well. But when he was little, it was difficult. You know, we had some very, very challenging times. And so I can really relate to parents and children who are struggling. And I think I kind of have that little bit of an inside track as a BCBA as far as that goes. So I will go ahead and let Keely introduce herself, and then Keely, if you want to talk about our program or if you want to send it back to me, however you're comfortable, okay?
All right, my name is Keely Jackson. I'm a registered behavior technician with Marshall. I have been with ABA for almost 2.5 years now. I'm actually in school to become a board certified behavior analyst. Hopefully next year, all of that will go well for me. I have a younger brother who has autism, and he's doing fantastic. He's actually about to go to school at Carl Perkins in August. And so we're super proud of him and just really looking forward to that. And so that's my kind of personal side of it. And so I kind of really just relate to our families as well, just knowing kind of the difficulties and struggles that they're kind of going through before they kind of get that extra support. Andrea, if you want to start off, and then I can chime in whenever.
Thank you, Keely. So at Marshall Pediatric, we offer a focused model of ABA. And what that means is that we offer anywhere from 6 to 25 hours of ABA. And we really kind of focus in on a few goals at a time. However, we are making sure we get to everything we possibly can, but rather than having the kids in there for a full 40-hour a week, we kind of condense that down a little bit. And so that we are really focusing on those most significant goals for them at the time. At Marshall, what's kind of unique is that we have the occupational therapists and the physical therapists, the speech therapists, and mental health therapists there as well. So we are able to kind of talk back and forth and have that kind of easy collaboration. So, you know, if in ABA, we are working on something specific, some certain communication, like maybe we are working on ASL for a particular request. Then speech therapy might help to support that by also targeting that in their sessions whenever possible. So that makes it very nice to be able to collaborate with the other disciplines, have them right there, have easy access to those disciplines, and be able to talk with them and share ideas and learn, you know, what are they having trouble with, what are we having trouble with, and how can we help each other. So that's really what Building Blocks is about. We are taking kids from 2 10, but I think we actually initially said 3 to 10, but we have given leeway to that, and we're kind of going on a needs-based. So that's a little bit about building blocks. Keely, do you have anything to add about it?
Just to kind of piggyback, I think one of the really cool things, like Andrea said, is just how collaborative it really is. Because ABA it's a great therapy. But the way that we're doing it, it's amazing because we have not only ABA, but we have speech therapy and we have occupational therapists and physical therapists, all there like really pouring into the kid, and kind of really just focusing on exactly what that kiddo needs instead of this broad, like, oh, we need to learn this, this, and this. But it's super focused and tailored to them. And so that's just something that I think is really super cool about our program specifically. Everything else, I think you did great.
Yes.
I am wondering, a behavior technician, Keely, can you tell us more precisely what that is, a registered behavior technician as opposed to a BCBA?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andrea is the behavior analyst, and then we have another one, Dana, as well. And so they do all of the evaluations and the programming, and they kind of really sit down and like determine what that kiddo is needing. And then as a behavior technician, I go in and I implement it on a day-to-day basis. And then we will collaborate like 2 to 3 times a week. Really, where we're at now, it's pretty much on an everyday basis that we're getting to like collaborate back and forth, like, hey, this is working, or hey, this really isn't working. We kind of need to change our approach and our strategy. So that's kind of the biggest thing. It's just Andrea is kind of the overarching, and she does all the evals and kind of really sets out what that kiddo needs. And then I'm just there to do the daily implementation of all those things.
I just want to say this sounds fantastic. I think this is the way these programs should be run. I don't think we should ever have a BCBA working in isolation. I think ABA needs to be inclusive. What's your wait list like? Do you have a wait list?
We do. We have some kids on our wait list. We are taking referrals, mostly in-house referrals right now, but we have taken some from the community as well. We know that there are lots of kids out there who are waiting for services. So we are also working on getting more RBTs into our clinic so that we can take on more kids. So yeah, there's definitely a wait list, but we're working them in as quickly as we can.
And I know you're collaborating with EKU and Myra Beth Bundy. Is that, yeah, which is exciting.
So
my dogs are growling in the back.
Oh, that's okay. Mine might in a minute too. That is going to happen. As far as I know, I'm not exactly sure where we're at on the EKU collaboration yet. That part hasn't been shared with me yet, but I'm sure that it will be. So yeah, I'm not sure where we are, but yes, that is the plan. And so I think that also the OT department at EKU will be coming in and doing some collaboration. Yeah, so, but another thing that's interesting or maybe a little bit unique about Marshall is that we do a very, or our focus is more on the natural environment teaching. Instead of the DTT, strictly DTT model, we very much incorporate natural environment teaching with very limited amount of DTT. So.
Can you define DTT? We'll probably, I hope we'll have some people on the meeting tonight or viewing it later who aren't as familiar.
So DTT is discrete trial training. So that's where you are taking small pieces of a task or a goal, and you are teaching that small piece, and then you reinforce that small piece. And so as you are reinforcing over and over again, that child is learning what it is that you're trying to teach them in small pieces. And so then what we hope to do is take that information that they're learning and generalize that out to the larger task, and out not just to a larger task, but to other people, to other settings, so that they are able to recognize and perform that task wherever they are and whoever they're with. Keely, do you have anything to add about DTT?
I would just say that DTT is more of that like stereotypical ABA that you see of like sitting at a table and like, what is this? What is this? Like, tell me about this. And just that's kind of like what people think about when they think of DTT. So what we're doing is typically opposite of that. Kind of like Andrea said, we're just following the kids' lead wherever they want to go, what they want to do. And so then we're just kind of implementing those targets in the natural environment so that it's much easier for them to go out in Walmart and use those same skills rather than trying to figure out how to do that from a table setting to the real world and how to kind of do that in a more everyday area. So we're really teaching how to generalize those skills super early on.
Is there a skill that you can think of that you use discrete trial training to break into components?
All of them.
Just a skill that you would use it with?
Like response to name or the word stop? Those
Yes,
are...
you can. You can use all of that.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can teach kids to imitate. So it's important that we are able to imitate another person, right? That's how we learn, through seeing other people model whatever that action, that task, that movement, that thing is. You can teach kids, as we all know, a lot of times kids with autism need very explicit teaching about, what an item is called. And, a lot of times we're teaching that communication piece as well. So we might be working on what we call a tact, or labeling an item, so that we know that when this picture that I show you of a cookie, it's a cookie. So when you say cookie, we're going to provide that reinforcement. But we also want you to know that when I give you a real cookie, that's a cookie also. So that's, once we get that, when we're using DTT and we're getting that down, that child recognizes that picture of the cookie is the word cookie. Now we're going to start to spread that out, but we don't really, it's not really like it's that super hyper focused, especially with something like a cookie. You're going to be teaching that across all of the operants: requesting, receptive, listener discrimination. Which one is the cookie? Point to cookie. Show me the cookie. Can you hand me the cookie? Things like that, because it's super important that they're able to not only tell you that is the cookie, but they're able to, when you give them an instruction and you say, point to the cookie, that they're able to recognize, oh, now I need to follow this instruction, and I need to recognize the cookie. So there's a lot that goes into that in helping our kids to generalize what something is, or what an activity is, so that they can perform it, like Keely was saying, not only sitting at this table, but in their environment.
We have a question from Facebook. I put it in the chat. It's Kayla Green on Facebook says, is there an age limit for the building blocks program?
They had initially set it at 10, I believe, but we have, I think we have an 11-year-old maybe that might be coming. So we are kind of taking that on a case-by-case basis. So I would definitely say call if you're in the Madison County area, call the Richmond Clinic and ask about that.
Andrea, this is Melanie. Or maybe Kelly can answer it as well. In the information, there's in describing it, you say anywhere from 6 to 25 hours. So what would a program for a child that was receiving 6 hours on a weekly basis, how would that be in comparison to a child that's maybe receiving more hours?
So that's a really good question. And we have to base that on a few different things. We have to consider parents' availability for getting their child to and from the clinic. And then we also consider what the parent wants for their child. Some parents don't want as much ABA. Some parents want all the ABA they can get. But when we're thinking about how many hours we want to recommend, we're thinking about where that learner's skill set is, and how much they still need to learn in order to, be able to function as independently and socialize in a way that they're going to be able to contact reinforcement, and not contact, kind of those negative consequences from other people. So with our kids that we're doing like 6, 8, 10 hours with, those are our kids that we're doing more of more social skills training. So those kids are doing really well with like being able to communicate, vocally, verbally communicate, let us know what they want, what they need, but they're having some trouble identifying their own emotions and knowing what to do when they have that emotion, or they're having some trouble sharing. That's another big one. Or having some trouble even understanding how to start a conversation or how to join a conversation. So those are our kids who are getting fewer hours typically. Our kids who really need a lot, like who aren't very vocal yet, or don't have a formal way to communicate, aren't able to let you know what they want or need, those kids are typically getting the higher number of hours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you had mentioned, I think, like you were talking about the clinical setting, I think you mentioned the natural setting, go into homes.
So we don't go into homes right now. That's not part of our program, but what we consider the natural setting for the child is the play area. So they're playing. We have 2 gym areas, and then we have other rooms that are just full of toys, all the different kinds of toys you can imagine. So that's what we're calling their natural environment.
Like today, for instance, I spent most of my day playing with Play-Doh, and kind of just teaching like appropriate ways for us to tell our friends no if we don't want them to come and play with us, instead of getting super upset when they're coming to sit down, just how to like appropriately say like not right now and stuff like that. And so that would be like a lot of really natural environment training, instead of me like pretending to come and play. It's really just using our peers that are there in the moment and really kind of focusing on, okay, this is a great time right now that I can teach. We don't have to play with everybody. We don't have to do what we don't want to do, and just really advocating for ourselves in those moments.
That sounds good. And so you have peers, how large, and I apologize if you already covered this, but I've had some stuff going on around me. How large are your groups that you use, that you do therapy with?
Well, right now we have, let's see, I'm trying to think. We probably had 4 kids. Keely, you think? Yeah, at one time?
Yes, we have 4 at a time. Yes, up
At
to
one
4
time.
today.
That is somewhat limited by the number of RBTs that we have right now. So if you guys know of anyone who would like a job, being an RBT is a wonderful, wonderful job. So, you get to work one-on-one with a kid, and you really get to be a part of teaching that kid some really amazing skills that's just going to really increase their quality of life. So yes, we are looking for RBTs if anyone knows of anyone who would like to be an RBT.
Well,
It's a great place
we have kind of a large listserv, and I'd be glad to put out a job announcement there if you like, and you can put it out yourself if you want us to add you to our listserv.
That would be great either way. Yeah. And the qualifications for an RBT are a high school diploma And then there is a 40-hour online training that you do, and you take a test, and then you'll do a competency with the BCBA wherever you're going to be working.
Another thing too, just about our program, and a lot of programs are like this too, but we are working one-on-one with the kids. So we're not really doing like a whole lot of group settings where it's like one instructor with like 2 to 3 kids. So for each kid that we have, it's going to be one technician with them the whole time. We split technicians, but they're always going to have just one person with them throughout that whole time that they're there through the day.
And I have a question. How frequently do you all give feedback to, like, if you have a pediatrician or some other kind of provider that sent the child to your program? Do you do kind of reports or updates every so many months? Like
Every 6 months.
6 months? Okay.
Mhm.
That'd be
Yes, ma'am.
good.
Every 6 months.
And is that at that same time, do you also determine whether or not the goals need to be revised or the child has completed the program? Because I know sometimes they graduate out of the program once they've achieved. Is your focus kind of like getting them ready for preschool or kindergarten or first grade?
Yeah, definitely getting them ready for school, definitely. But we may, if they're meeting goals, we may go ahead and add new goals even before we get to that recertification, that 6-month mark. We're constantly, as the BCBAs, we are constantly analyzing the data and looking to see where we are. So, if we are meeting goals, we are going to quickly go ahead and put new goals in so that we are teaching as much and as fast as we can and still, help that child to be able to learn in a manner that is conducive to that child learning.
Yeah. One thing, when my son was young, he had what they call self-injurious behaviors where he would hit himself on the hand or bite. Do you also deal with those kind of issues for the kids that are in your program?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we definitely do. And so when we have those kinds of things going on, we want to teach kids replacement behaviors. So we want to teach them something they can do instead of that. So we're always working on that. And a lot of times that's communication. And so, if we've got a kid who's not talking, we might use sign language, or we might use pictures, or we could use an AAC device, something like a tablet or an iPad with a program on it, where they'll push the button and it will speak the word to communicate what they want or need.
Okay.
And you were talking about those behaviors that she described, and at one time there would be negative reinforcers, but talk about what ABA therapy does in lieu of negative reinforcers. And what you were talking about replacement behaviors, but
so I think what you're referring to is probably like a punishment, maybe. Okay, so we don't use punishment procedures, certainly.
Right.
I don't want to say never, but we try not to ever use punishment procedures. And if we are ever going to use a punishment procedure, we would discuss that with the parent and we would get permission to do that. But the goal is to use reinforcement, positive reinforcement, in order to increase the likelihood that a child will perform one thing over another. So we're going to differentially reinforce, which means we're going to really strongly reinforce this communication that we're looking for. And then when we have that behavior, that challenging SIB behavior, we're going to keep that child safe, but we're not going to give it any reinforcement. So there's a huge difference. If I do it this way, I get what I like. I get what I love. If I do it this other way, I'm not getting anything. So it becomes, really easy for them to make the choice to do it a different way. And we teach that. We also teach and shape that behavior through reinforcement.
And Keely, you could probably answer this too. When my son was in ABA, the therapists spent a lot of time determining what would be good reinforcers for him, and so often that might be something edible, but they would try to find things too that were not edibles that would be good reinforcers.
They were spherical.
Yeah, so we do a lot of what we call like preference assessments and pairing. So we kind of pairing is just really making myself as a technician the funnest person in the world. So that when we are in a super challenging behavior, when I am presenting something that you maybe not necessarily want to do, you're still going to kind of want to hang out with me and still work with me and answer those questions. And that's super, super important when we are in those challenging behaviors. Because then I'm able to like still kind of get them to pay attention and listen to me so that we can kind of work through it. And then I get to give them that super awesome thing. So some kiddos, it really is different for every kid. We've got some kids that love candy. I've got one kid that I know, like he knows the second that he does that one replacement behavior, he's like, I did it. Do I get my candy? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because you told me how you felt. So 100%, let's go get our candy. But then I've got another kid that he wants a hug. It's like I did that. And so it's like that hug is the greatest thing to him. And candy would just be like, oh, cool, it's candy. And so that as a therapist is something that's super cool because you just get to really learn your kids and really get to see what they like and what they love and kind of go based on where they're at and what they want to do. So I love it. I love being able to be like, oh, you know what? We 100% said that we were upset instead of going and hitting something. So yeah, let's go jump on the trampoline. Like, that's awesome. Like, you communicated that with me. And so now we really, like Andrea said, we get to do this thing that we love rather than not getting to do anything. And it's not necessarily that we're not going to do something. It's just like, you told me that, so we get to do that thing you love so much faster. So that's kind of how we do reinforcement. And where we're at now, it's so easy to do reinforcement because it's really just following those kids' leads. And so you get to see all of the things that they love. So you really get to know those kids and know, like, okay, cool, if they do this, I know that I'm going to run and I'm going to grab a potato head, or I'm going to run and grab some water beads so that we can play with those things.
That's awesome. What about, do you guys deal with goals around elopement? That's oftentimes or wandering. That's a hot topic when kids are very first identified, that causes caregivers just a ton of stress, just because they're always so worried about the child leaving the home or leaving them in the parking lot or in the store kind of thing. Do you guys work on those kind of skills?
We definitely do. I think all of our kiddos right now we're working on elopement with, which one of the really cool things with where we're at currently, our kids are a little bit older and they're either almost school aged or are school aged. And so we really just get to like talk to them and just have conversations throughout the day. So we'll just play all kinds of silly little games, like standing at the door. It's like, can you leave this room right now? And I'll be like 5 feet away from them. And they're like, nope, we can't leave because you're not right here. And then we'll step up and like, what about now? Now can we leave the room? And just really teaching that in like a fun way of like, oh, if I don't have an adult with me, then hey, I can't leave a room and go somewhere unsupervised. Andrea, you can kind of touch on that more of like from the higher up standpoint. That's just kind of like how we as techs are dealing with those types of situations.
Yeah, no, that's great, Kaylee. Keely, listen, Keely, I know who you are. Yes, that is great. And yes, with our older clients, we are doing that with some of our younger clients who are having more trouble vocalizing right now. We're teaching that specific skill of letting me know that you're finished with what you're doing, and so that I can help you figure out something else safe to do. So, you know, we're really, and that's what ABA is really all about, is teaching those very specific behaviors that are going to be really important to the child, or it could be an adult, to help them, you know, be able to live the very best quality of life possible. So for our kids who aren't vocal yet and can't really talk to us about this stuff, we're really teaching them that it's, you know, important that you let me know that you're all done with what you're doing right now, and now we're going to make a decision together about where we go next. So.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. And I don't want this to like bring up any like real big negativity, but I think it's important to address. How would you address the stigma with ABA for self-advocates? How would you address, because a lot of self-advocates just say ABA is abuse and they just leave it at that. And so how would you address that?
I personally, oh, sorry, Andrew, if you want to go, you can go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Keely.
I think that ABA has that overarching kind of negative stigma to it, depending on who you're talking to. I think the one way that I would address it, just in my personal experiences, is that it's really about the company that you choose, and it's really about the clinic that you're working with, and to really do your research, because ABA is there to kind of shape those behaviors. It's definitely, we don't want to change people. We're not trying to make anybody a certain way. Like Andrea's been saying, we really just want that best quality of life in the safest way possible. And so I think you really just need to do your own research and the companies that you're looking into, to make sure that they have those core values of wanting to just give that best quality of life to each individual. And ABA is changing a lot. We really are doing, like Andrea said, all of the positive reinforcement. I'm trying to really, really, really stay away from those punishment procedures, and only in the most extreme circumstances using those. Andrea, you can kind of go from there if you want to.
Yeah, so I agree completely with Keely. You know, it really depends on where you are and who you're with. But as far as for us, for our clinic, we are a very compassionate group of people, and we want to support our children and our families so that they feel comfortable, they feel good about what they're doing, they feel supported. But today's ABA should not be the ABA of 20 years ago or 10 years ago. You know, we've learned a lot since then. And if you are encountering that style of ABA, or you know someone who is encountering that style of ABA, I would definitely encourage you to look somewhere else, because there are ABA providers out there who are very kind, compassionate, caring, who want to help you in the very best way that they possibly can.
I will say that our son was having ABA starting like 20 years ago, and I never saw anything but positive reinforcement. They just didn't do anything in the realm of negative reinforcement that we ignore. They would put his the behaviors on extinction that were undesired, but just by giving no reinforcement whatsoever. But that's as punishing as they ever were.
Yeah, and that's how it should be, right? And we want to really strongly reinforce those behaviors that we desire to see. because we know those behaviors are going to help that child to come into contact with reinforcement and positive consequences when they are out in the community and in their environment. So, but unfortunately, some people have had some really negative experiences, and I hate that. And if that's happening, move on.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get that question out there because I know that we have plenty of people who are part of our group who will inevitably have that question or something similar. I was wondering if you would also say that ABA techniques are used in other therapies as well, or no?
So I'm also an occupational therapist, and I definitely use ABA techniques in my occupational therapy. I was an occupational therapist in long-term care for over 20 years before I became a BCBA. And wow, learning about ABA changed my whole occupational therapy game, yeah, even in long-term care with the elderly people that I was helping to care for. So yes, we definitely teach strategies also to the other therapists in our clinic, and other therapists can absolutely 100% use ABA strategies and techniques.
What strategies would be used in those other therapies that are ABA techniques?
The use of reinforcement. So when you are positively reinforcing a behavior that you hope to see happen again in the future. And also teaching to assess motivation. So you need to know what it is that the child is motivated for, and what is actually reinforcing for that child. And the way that we know that something is a reinforcer or is reinforcing for that child is because that when we provide that reinforcer, it makes it more likely that the child will perform that behavior again. So that's one thing right there. Learning about non-contingent reinforcement. I use that a lot as an occupational therapist in long-term care. Just walking in and very non-contingently, I have no requirements. I go in and provide reinforcement, something that I know that my patient loves, which a lot of times was attention. And so I would go in, I had one lady who loved her jewelry. So I would go in, spend some time talking with her, and we would look at her jewelry and comment about her jewelry. And when a nurse aide would come in and try to get this person to go to the bathroom, she would refuse. But after I used non-contingent reinforcement and went in and spent some time also pairing with this lady, then I was able to have her get up and go to the bathroom without any difficulty. So non-contingent reinforcement, positive reinforcement, the use of task analysis, breaking a task down into smaller parts, and teaching those smaller parts. I used chaining, forward, backward, and total task chaining as an occupational therapist. And that's, and OTs can absolutely do that in pediatrics as well. When they're working on, let's say you're working on self-feeding. I've always found that backward chaining was the best way to work on self-feeding. So I would scoop, I would put the spoon in their hand, help them bring it up, and then they would finish it by putting it in their mouth and taking the spoon out of their mouth. And so we would do it that way until they were doing more and more of the steps, so that eventually they were picking up that spoon, they were taking that scoop and putting it in their mouth and getting another bite and putting it in their mouth. So lots of strategies that therapists can use in other disciplines.
So what you're saying about the self-feeding, I find that interesting because my son actually has, part of his condition is that he has a swallowing issue. Basically, his epiglottis does not move as quickly as it should. And the issue, it comes and goes. So we eventually, he had actually stopped eating and by mouth, and we had to get a feeding tube, and that's pretty common for his particular disorder. So but we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know why he wasn't eating until we did a swallow study. So we've also noticed that a lot of his behaviors that are negative were ways to communicate that he was in pain. So are those things that you all typically rule out prior to, or is that something that you work on and you later find out, like much later, that that person was trying to communicate pain or they were having trouble with a particular health issue?
Yeah, so if we suspect a health issue at all, we're going to refer that child to go see their pediatrician. With swallowing, I have not yet myself worked with a child who is not feeding themselves at all. But typically, in my experience with swallowing, there are going to be some signs and symptoms. If someone is having difficulty swallowing, there's going to be some coughing, some gagging, some tears coming from the eyes, some nose running.
It's interesting
And
you
so-
say that, because my son's signs of his swallowing issue were so mild that it took him not eating and us doing a swallow study to even find that his epiglottis was not moving quickly enough.
Yeah. So, if you have a child that's not eating, I would definitely always recommend that a pediatrician see that child. But if also, I guess over time, I just became very familiar with the signs and symptoms of difficulty with swallowing. Because like I said, I've been doing it for over 20 years, watching people and recognizing when they're having those difficulties. And definitely, with a person whose symptoms are very, very mild, and especially if you are not someone who has been, looking for this, for the last 20 years, it's going to be hard to recognize what's going on. And most definitely, at any time that I feel like a child, or even when I was working as an occupational therapist in long-term care, an elderly person was having difficulty or any kind of possible medical issue, always immediately make a referral to their physician.
Andrea, what you were describing as what you were labeling as chaining is what I thought is discrete trial training, breaking down a task into smaller components like food on spoon, whatever. Is that not, do I have that wrong?
No, you can add, I'm sorry.
I'll just kind of jump in for real quick.
Thank you.
So chaining is a part of DTT or discrete trial training. So it's just like a technique that can be used through discrete trial training. It's not necessarily exactly chaining always, but it's 100% one of the techniques that's commonly used.
I got it. So those components that she was talking about, those are discrete components of the task, and she's talking about chaining backwards from, okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so, Andrea, you can kind of pick up. I was just saying that chaining was one of the things that can be used in DTT, but it's not specifically, DTT is not specifically chaining.
Yeah. And the way I view DTT is, a lot of people view DTT as sitting at a table. You're sitting at a table, you're putting a card down, you give reinforcement, you prompt through it, you give reinforcement. This is DTT. You're at a table, you're back and forth, you're back and forth, you're back and forth. DTT doesn't have to be that way. Discrete trial training is you are presenting, you're giving something that indicates, I'm sorry, My husband just came home, so my
Uh.
dog is really excited right now.
Okay.
So DTT means that you're going to present the opportunity for reinforcement, and then you're going to either teach, prompt through, or that child is going to perform that task, and you're immediately going to reinforce it. Okay, so that's DTT. That's really breaking that down, and we use that. When we're teaching kids to label, to tact, to be able to say what something is. And it really is a way of thinking about just breaking something way, way down to its smallest pieces. When you start chaining, you're chaining those pieces together. So you start putting those pieces together, and the reinforcement for that chain is what happens at the end of the chain.
Got it. Courtney at Marshall Pediatrics had let us know that you've got your offices in Nicholasville and Richmond, and you're going to be scheduling evaluations soon in Georgetown. How soon is that? What do you know about that?
Yeah, I don't have any information about that just yet. Sorry.
That's okay. It would just be another, just keep us updated, let us know, because that'd be another area, a place in around our area. It might help.
I think that they were talking about Georgetown beginning to take evals and everything towards the middle to end of July. I could be wrong, but I feel like it's towards the middle to end of July that they plan for Georgetown to start taking those evals.
Okay, thanks. I guess Melanie is, I don't guess Courtney is on our listserv, is she? Because she could post the job listings that they were talking about for technicians and the Georgetown location.
I don't think she is. I mean, she's mainly been emailing directly to us. So
Maybe she'll just email, let you know when she's got something. We could post it if she has
yeah,
a job announcement that we could put up.
yeah. And remind me again, what insurances do you guys all, is it private insurance or is it the Medicaid, like the WellCare and Passport and that kind of stuff that you take?
So we do take Medicaid, and then there are several other insurances. Keely, do you have your phone on you?
Yes.
Can you look at Marshall's Facebook page? Scroll through there. There in May, there is a post.
I remember that that you guys do take a lot of the Medicaids, like the WellCare and the Humana, and I'm guessing Passport and the Molina. There's all these different kinds of MCOs is what they call them. So I just didn't know if the ABA program was going to take that same kind of insurance.
The current insurances are Humana MCO, Aetna Better Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, WellCare, Kentucky Medicaid, Anthem MCMO, and CareSource Marketplace.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Keely. Sorry, guys, my computer just shut off and came back on.
It
Mine
happens
does
to me.
Mine does that too. You came up a lot faster than mine does.
And just to make sure to clear it in my brain, the places that you're offering the Buildings Block program are in the Richmond and Georgetown clinics. Is that right? Or is it all your clinics?
Richmond, Georgetown, and Nicholasville.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
they want to offer in Lexington. They need a larger facility though.
Oh,
So
okay.
I believe they're working on that.
On that. Okay. Okay. That's great. I'm just trying to, I wish you guys the best of success, because it's a huge undertaking. Oh, how do you have weekly meetings that the parent the caregiver is a part of as well? Because I remember reading something about how the collaborativeness of what you do. So I'm hoping that there's good communication with the caregiver in this whole process.
Absolutely. We encourage our parents to, if they want to be present, they are absolutely welcome to be
Oh,
present.
that's great.
If they need to take this time to go do, whatever it is that they need to do. I just had a lady, cry and give me a big hug today because tomorrow she's going to have the first time without her son in almost
Oh.
6 years.
Oh my
That she's
gosh.
going to be able to go see a movie with her daughter.
Oh,
you
that's
know
great.
so she was just very thankful, very appreciative, and she hasn't been able to leave him with anyone or to have him in daycare. And so it was, just, she was just so, I think, just so happy and so joyful to see that he was so happy, and he was very much okay and enjoying himself there with us. And she was able to go spend some time with her daughter. But yes, she was there with us all day long today. We do ask that our parents have a meeting with us at least once a month. But how often we meet varies based on what we think the need is. I have a family right now that I'm meeting the parents 2 times a week. And then we have some families that we meet once a month. So,
Wow. And Joe, I don't know if you see it, but had someone text me that they had posted a question on Facebook, but she didn't know if anybody had seen it as of yet. Oh, here, okay, I'll ask it. Sorry. Do you provide parent education as part of the program? And you also answered it whether or not parents can observe, and that yes, they can. But the parent education, do you provide
Sorry about
that?
that, Mel.
Oh, that's
Apparently
cool.
my computer didn't refresh because I'd been checking, but I didn't see
Okay.
anything, so that's why it got missed.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you.
yes, we definitely do parent education. For example, I had a meeting with some parents today, and we talked about, what is positive reinforcement. We talked about following through with requests that they would make of their child. And, we talked about how, something that we worked on was we worked on having them practice with their child, um, asking their child to stop, and then having the little girl look around, scan her environment, and check with the parents to see what should I do next? And then they would give her an instruction, which, as you can imagine, is super important for things like crossing the road. If you're in a busy area where there's lots of roads around you, if you're in a mall where there's lots of people and your child elopes or runs, you want your child to respond to your words and to stop and check and make sure that everything is safe. So we really practice with them how to do that and how to provide that reinforcement when she does what it is that they ask her to do.
That's good. That's wonderful.
Remind me what part of Lexington Marshall Pediatrics is in, and everything else that is offered there other than ABA.
So Marshall Pediatric in Lexington is right off of Richmond Road. Like if you get off if you're coming from the south and you get off at exit 104 and you go in towards Lexington,
It's
it
across
is-
from St. Joe on Richmond Road.
there you go. Across from St. Joe on Richmond Road.
Yes. It's over beside I think it's a Circle K gas station and Firehouse Subs. It's over there in that area.
Is it kind of a new construction place? No, it's been there a while.
No, do you know where Squires Road is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just right past Squires Road. There's that Circle K on the
It's-
corner there.
It's right next
And
to the
it's-
Painted Horse. Thatcher goes to
Yes.
Marshall.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
And the other services that are offered are speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and mental health.
Oh, mental health. It's interesting.
And then the one in Nicholasville, they actually just did their grand opening last week. It's out in Brandon Crossing.
Oh, cool. It's pretty close to Lexington also.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you guys offer feeding therapy as well?
I know
Yes.
that some of our OTs are working on feeding.
Right. Well, I don't know if anyone else has any more questions about it over on Facebook or in the chat here on Zoom or from anyone who is on the call, but you guys, if you have anything else to add about Marshall Pediatrics or the Building Blocks program, feel free to jump in now. But we can also, if you don't have anything else going on, we can let you have your night back
Thank you guys for having us.
into dogs and things like
I
that.
will just say one thing overall for Marshall as like a company. I recently just started with Marshall, and as a company, everyone is super nice. They truly care about the kids that they are serving and the families that they are serving. It's really nice to kind of work for some people who are like that. And so if you are somebody that is needing a place that's truly going to support not only your kid, but your family as well, I would definitely say look into Marshall. Like we kind of whenever they offer so many different services, not just ABA. And it's just truly a place where I think that they support the families and really care about their families and each individual person that comes through the doors.
It's wonderful.
That's absolutely true, what she just said. And I know this because Thatcher's occupational therapist, who is at Marshall, during the pandemic, we were doing virtual and we did that until we exhausted what we were doing with that. And now she comes to our house and sees him because it's on her way home. So
Aw.
yeah, that's how much they really care there. Yeah, that they're willing to go above and beyond like that.
Sweet. That's great. Well, I know a lot of our members go back with ABA for decades, and some of our founders helped bring ABA for the first time to Lexington. So we've seen a lot. We've had a lot of experience with it. Our daughter was so envious that our brother got to have it. She would lie on the floor and be able to see through the crack under the door and just stare and wish that she could get in there. And they would incorporate her a lot. The way you guys are talking about natural settings, she became his peer in a lot. So she was, I always said, one of his early therapists too. So she got to enjoy some of those positive reinforcements as well. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. Dr. Allen, did you have something to say?
No, I was just going to say, I have vivid memories of being basically an RBT before there were RBTs, and being stuck in the McDonald's playland in the tubes. And we would be laughing about graduate students rescued by the fire department as we're taking our clients into the, yeah, it was great. It was awesome. It's the best. If I weren't old and an associate professor, I would be like, yes, I'm going to come and be an RBT because it's so much fun. It's the best.
It's so much fun. One of my kiddos asked me, he's like, why do you do this? And I was like, because I don't want to be an adult, and I get to sit here and play all day long and just have fun. So
Absolutely.
why would you not do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, and to the positive reinforcements, I'm recalling right now that some of our sons was getting to go to a store.
Yes.
That was another natural setting that they could do therapy in. So they would just do therapy. He'd love to do that. Go to the store, sometimes ride in a therapist's car. That was a good one. They would take him out, and do stuff. And they would do therapy, not just in the little four walls of a room in our house, but yeah, out somewhere where they could do something more interesting, get his attention.
Yeah, I remember going to the taqueria in San Diego and, requesting from the lovely grandma there, I want juice, oh, fabulous stuff.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, great reinforcements.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to everybody for joining us tonight, especially our speakers. I was very glad to hear about all of that. And like I say, let us know if there's anything that we can do for you as far as putting out information, because all of it helps to build the community that we have here for all kinds of things. So give everybody something good to fall back on to use with their families. So thank you so much. I'll say thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. And we will be back on the last Monday of July. Melanie reminded me, first steps. That'll be about first steps. And as she promised, in the future, we'll have something about for older individuals. We do try to change it up, but you could really help us with our programming by letting us know what you need. The topics that are of interest to your family, do let us know, because we want to supply it. It just helps us. So thanks
in
to everyone.
October, I don't know what's going on in August, but I know that in October, I'm going to be doing is that right, Mel? Did I say I could do October or August? I'm going to be talking about service dogs and ADA law. So it's going to be a little bit different, because I've done like, how do you get a service dog, but this time I'm going to be talking about like what the laws are and what people who have a service dog, what their rights are.
That'll be great. And if we're in person, which I have every reason to think that we will be, you might get to pet a beautiful golden retriever named Saul. I think I'm right.
Yeah, I might bring Saul along. Yeah.
You said you could do September.
Okay, I couldn't remember which month I said. So yeah, September. I will be talking about service dogs and ADA law, and I might bring Saul. I don't know. It'll just depend, but a lot will depend on whether or not it's hotter than. Yeah, a lot of it will depend on that, because.
Sure.
Yeah. I told my mom it was hotter than Hades' butt crack the other day, and
So
but
also,
anyway,
I was going to say, for people that are watching, recorded, please let us know if you need an interpreter for Spanish or sign language or any other language, and we'll do our very best to accommodate you.
Yeah, we just need to know what's needed out there. We do think that we are going to have a Spanish interpreter for the July meeting, and we hope to have it going forward. And we need, like Dr. Allen said, we need to know what's needed out there besides that. So, okay, well, thanks to everybody. Joe, thanks for getting this all together, putting this into the world. thanks to our speakers. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right,
Good
I'm gonna
night.
stop the recording now.
Thanks. All right. I'm gonna hit the road.